Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something pretty fascinating. We're looking at South Korea and how they're using technology to kind of revolutionize how they buy and sell food.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so specifically we're talking agricultural products here.
Hmm.
And we got a bunch of different sources to pull from: reports, data analyses, and we've even got some footage from like the actual markets in Korea and these online platforms they're
Oh,
using.
wow. Okay. Footage too, huh? That's cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
It's really interesting to see how a country like South Korea with such a history of traditional markets is really embracing digital tools, you know?
Exactly. And you know what really caught my attention? The growth of their online agricultural market. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. It's not just like a little experiment anymore. It's really becoming like a core part of their whole food system.
I can imagine. By 2024, they're saying that something like a quarter of all agricultural transactions will be handled online.
Yeah, a quarter. Like, just imagine if like a quarter of all food sales in our country just all of a sudden went online.
Be a huge change.
Huge. But before we get too far into the digital world, I think it's important to understand like the traditional way they do things, right? Like how did they do it before?
Right. Yeah, we should definitely do that.
And we have some amazing footage from the Garak market in Seoul. Have you ever heard that?
The Garak market, yeah, it's the largest wholesale market in Korea, right?
Yeah.
I've seen some pictures and videos. It's just incredible the sheer amount of produce that they handle every single day. Mountains of fresh fruits and vegetables, seafood, you name it. It's like this visual reminder of just the massive scale of feeding an entire nation.
It's really amazing to see the energy and the human element of these traditional markets.
Yeah.
But from the reports we've got, they face some pretty tough challenges.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just think about the logistics of it all, right? Like the long transactions, all the different layers of intermediaries between the farmer and the buyer,
Yeah.
and sometimes just a lack of transparency in the pricing.
Yeah, totally. And these are some of the problems that these digital platforms are trying to address.
Trying to solve those, yeah.
So let's step into this digital era. And the first platform we're going to explore is KAF B2B.
KFB to B.
Yeah, stands for Korea Agro-Fisheries and Food B2B Market. It's this government-backed initiative, and they're really trying to change the whole game when it comes to wholesale agricultural trade.
Interesting. And it seems like it's actually working too, from what I've read. One of the reports highlighted how much it's grown in the past few years, like both in terms of how many transactions they're doing and just the total value of those transactions. It's really taken off.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And it's not just about like shifting things online. They've built in these really innovative features like real-time bidding and even reverse auctions where buyers can set the price that they're willing to pay.
Oh, wow. So the buyer says, this is what I'll pay, and then the farmers decide if they want to sell at that price.
Exactly. It kind of flips the traditional way of doing things on its head.
That's pretty cool. What about the farmers though? Are they okay with this new approach?
Yeah, well, what seems to be key for the farmers is that they can connect directly with the buyers on KAF B2B.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
So it cuts out all those extra layers of middlemen that we were talking about earlier.
Makes sense. So less people taking a cut, hopefully.
Exactly. And fewer intermediaries means lower costs, right? Does that mean more profits for the farmers?
Well, that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
The reports we have say that KAF B2B's transaction fees are way lower than traditional markets.
Really? How much lower are we talking?
Like, they charge a little over 1%, while traditional markets can take like 6%.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It is for both sides.
Both buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got KAF B2B, which is making the buying and selling process smoother. But then there's this other platform called Nongnet.
The Nongnet, okay.
Yeah, is it safe to say that this one's all about information?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Think of Nongnet like a Bloomberg, but for agriculture.
Bloomberg, wow.
It's packed with data and insights for farmers and buyers.
Like what kind of data?
They have things like real-time price tracking, market trend analysis, even AI-powered price predictions.
Wait, hold on. AI predicting prices. That sounds super futuristic.
It is. Their algorithms are analyzing tons and tons of data, from historical pricing to weather patterns and even social media trends to try to anticipate how prices might change.
That's incredible.
It's not, telling the future exactly, but it gives farmers really valuable insight.
So Nonnet's giving farmers the information they need to make better decisions.
Yeah.
But what about the buyers? How does this help them?
Well, imagine you're a buyer for like a big grocery chain, right? You can use NongNet to compare prices for, let's say, a certain type of, I don't know, lettuce from different regions in real time.
Okay, yeah.
So it helps you decide where to buy based on price, quality, and even things like how much it'll cost to transport the produce.
It seems like these platforms, both KFB2B and NongNet, they're really tackling those problems that we talked about earlier, right? Like the lack of transparency and the high fees and all that.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they're making some real progress in addressing those issues.
But do they really solve the problems for both farmers and buyers, you know?
Well, that's what we need to really dig into.
Okay, it's good.
So for farmers, platforms like KAFB2B give them more transparency in pricing, open up access to a much wider market beyond just their local area. And because there are fewer middlemen, it can lead to higher profits.
And for buyers, it looks like the biggest advantages are the convenience of doing everything online, the streamlined purchasing process, and they can get a wider variety of products and maybe even lower prices. I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true. Right. Well, there are always challenges, of course, but well, there are always challenges. But before we get into those, I want to kind of give you a clearer picture of how these platforms actually like tackle some of those issues we were talking about.
Okay, sounds good.
So let's start with this KAFB2B's real-time bidding system. It's kind of like an online auction,
Okay.
but for agricultural products.
Got it. So instead of farmers like physically bringing their produce to the market and waiting for people to bid on it, everything's happening online.
Exactly. So farmers can like list their products, set a starting price, and then buyers from all over the country can bid on it electronically.
So it's like eBay for produce,
Yeah.
but for wholesale, not individual consumers.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And because it's all online, farmers aren't stuck selling just in their local market. They can reach buyers across the entire country.
That makes sense. That's especially helpful for farmers who are growing something unique or like a really high demand product.
Exactly.
We talked about reverse auctions before where the buyer sets the price. Can you walk me through how that works, like practically?
Yeah. So imagine you're a restaurant owner and you're looking for a specific type of organic lettuce.
Okay.
You can post a reverse auction on KAFB2B, saying how much you need, what quality you're looking for, and the price you're willing to pay.
Okay.
And then farmers who have that type of lettuce can choose to accept your offer or not.
Got it. So it gives the buyers more control over their sourcing and maybe they can even get better prices that way, right?
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
But what's in it for the farmers? Why would they want to do a reverse auction?
Well, it's all about like efficiency for them, and reaching more buyers. They can immediately see what buyers are willing to pay. And if the price is right, they make a sale without having to like negotiate back and forth.
Makes sense. And those lowered transaction fees on KAFB2B must be a huge incentive too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we read that traditional wholesale markets in Korea, they take like 6% in fees.
Yeah, something like that.
But KAB2B only charges a little over 1%.
Yeah, it's a big difference. It can really add up, especially for smaller farmers who are working with, really tight margins.
Totally. Plus, didn't the Korean government like waive the fees for the first few years to get people to use the platform?
Yeah, they did for the first 3 years, I think.
Smart. It seems like they're really serious about making this platform successful.
Yeah, they really are.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk more about NonNet.
Okay.
You compared it to Bloomberg earlier. I mean, that's a pretty big comparison. What makes it so special?
It's all about data, really. Giving farmers the information they need so they can make smarter decisions about their business.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. So a farmer can track the price of, I don't know, whatever crop they're growing in different parts of the country, right?
Okay.
And that helps them decide where to sell it for the best price.
That takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. They're not just relying on like what they hear from other farmers or what's happening in their little, local market.
Exactly. Yeah. And remember those AI price predictions?
Yeah, that one still kind of blows my mind.
I know. It's pretty amazing. They use these machine learning algorithms
Right.
to analyze all sorts of data, historical prices, weather patterns, even things like social media trends to try and predict how prices might change.
It's like having your own team of like market analysts, right there in your pocket.
Pretty much. Yeah,
I could definitely see how that would be incredibly helpful for farmers.
definitely. And it's not just price predictions either.
Oh, okay. What else?
They also have these really detailed reports on consumer preferences.
Okay.
So farmers can figure out how to tailor their crops to different markets. Like imagine a farmer knowing which types of apples are like the most popular in Seoul versus, I don't know, Busan.
Right, right.
That's valuable information.
Yeah. So they know what to grow more of.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about all these great things that these platforms can do, but I'm sure there are, some challenges too.
Of course.
We've mentioned the digital divide a few times. Not all farmers have good internet access
Yeah.
or the skills to use these platforms.
Yeah, that's a real concern, and it's something that both KFB2B and Nongnet are working on. They're trying to make their platforms as easy to use as possible. They're offering training sessions. They're partnering with local agricultural cooperatives to reach farmers who might need some extra help.
That's good to hear. But I bet some farmers, especially the ones who've been doing things the traditional way for a long time, they're probably hesitant to jump into this whole new digital world.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure some are. Change is hard. And some farmers might just prefer the way things have always been done. They like those face-to-face interactions at the traditional markets.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the reality is that things are changing, and digital tools they're becoming more and more important if farmers want to, stay competitive and profitable.
It sounds like South Korea is really leading the way in this whole digital agriculture revolution.
Yeah, they really are.
But do you think this model can work in other countries?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We're seeing similar things starting to happen in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But every country has its own, unique agricultural system and different cultural things to consider.
So what would it take to make this model successful somewhere else? What are the key ingredients?
Well, you need strong support from the government, for one.
Right.
A good digital infrastructure so everyone can access the internet.
Right.
And educational programs to help bridge that digital divide we were talking about.
Yeah.
But maybe most importantly, you need to build trust. Farmers and buyers need to feel confident that these platforms are reliable and secure and transparent.
So it's a complicated challenge, but the potential benefits are huge.
Oh, absolutely. For farmers, for buyers, and ultimately for consumers.
Yeah, for all of us.
Yeah.
But we can't just focus on the good stuff. We got to talk about the potential downsides too.
Right. Yeah.
Things like data security, making sure that the data is being used responsibly and that everyone has equal access to these technologies. Those are all things we need to think about carefully.
Definitely. Yeah. Those are all really important considerations as this trend continues to develop.
So we've talked about the good and the bad, the potential benefits and the challenges of this whole digital agriculture thing that's happening in South Korea.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean for the future of food? If this model really takes off in other countries, what kind of impact could we see globally?
It's a really interesting question to think about. What we're seeing in South Korea, it's kind of like a small-scale example of this much bigger global trend. Technology is becoming more and more important in agriculture everywhere.
Right.
Precision farming, data analytics, online platforms like the ones we've been talking about.
Yeah.
All of these things have the potential to really change how we produce food all over the world.
So it's not just about making things more efficient in Korea.
No, not at all. It could really change things for farmers and consumers everywhere.
Right.
Imagine a farmer in some remote village in Africa.
Yeah.
They could use their smartphone to see what the market prices are, connect with buyers in Europe or somewhere,
right,
and get a fair price for their crops. Or a consumer here in the US, you could scan a QR code on a package of strawberries and instantly see where those strawberries came from, down to the specific farm in, I don't know, Chile or something.
That's amazing.
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but with the way technology is advancing, it's not that far-fetched.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more real every day.
And it's not just about convenience either.
Right.
This kind of transparency, it could have a major impact on things like food security.
Okay.
Reducing waste and empowering farmers in developing countries, giving them more control over their livelihoods.
It sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any potential downsides to this whole digital shift in agriculture that we should be aware of?
Well, whenever you have new technology, there are always risks and challenges. We talked about the digital divide earlier.
Right.
We need to make sure that all farmers, especially those in rural areas or with limited resources, that they have access to the internet and they know how to use these platforms.
So we're not leaving anyone behind.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of data security.
Right.
These platforms, they're collecting huge amounts of information about farmers, about buyers, about market trends. We need to protect that data from hackers and from misuse.
Absolutely. And what about who controls that data? In other industries, we've seen how big tech companies can collect tons and tons of data and use it to gain more power.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. We need to have clear rules and regulations in place to make sure that data is being used responsibly and ethically, and that everyone can see what's happening with it.
Right. Transparency is key.
The goal here is to help farmers and buyers, not to create new problems or give too much power to a handful of companies.
So as we move towards this more digital future in agriculture, it sounds like there's a lot to consider, a lot of different angles to think about.
Yeah, definitely. There's no easy answer.
What's your overall take on it? Are you optimistic about the future of digital agriculture?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think these technologies have incredible potential to really make a positive impact, to make food systems more efficient, more fair, more sustainable.
Right.
But we have to be smart about it. We need to think carefully about the challenges, try to anticipate the risks, and find solutions as we go along.
It's kind of like with any powerful tool, right?
Yeah,
It can be used for good or for bad, depending on how we use it.
exactly. The future of food is really in our hands. We have the power to shape it through the decisions we make, the technologies we embrace, and the policies we put in place.
Well, that's a powerful thought.
It is.
Well, listeners, we've come to the end of our deep dive into South Korea's digital agricultural revolution. We've seen how platforms like KAF B2B and non-net are changing the game, making things more efficient, giving farmers more information, and really addressing some of the big problems that have been around in agriculture for a long time.
We also talked about the bigger picture. What does all of this mean for the future of food globally? What are the potential benefits and what are the risks?
Yeah, it's been a really fascinating conversation. If you're interested in learning more, I definitely recommend checking out non-net for yourself. You might be surprised by what you find.
Uh-huh.
And keep an eye on what's happening in your own country. You never know, maybe you'll be part of the next big innovation in agriculture.
That's right. Keep those brains buzzing and happy deep diving, everyone.